Hey guys, so we're in the middle of our series, Everything Everywhere. It's all about things that can sometimes feel overwhelming or stressful. Stress and being overwhelmed is something I deal with quite a lot, as I personally tend to get very stressed very easily. I was stressed this morning just coming over here. Our hearts, thoughts and emotions race, and it feels like everything's everywhere. The goal of this series is to discover ways in which we can look for God every day when we're feeling overwhelmed by stress and worry, and how He can help take away those feelings and guide us through those situations. Very recently, I had to deal with quite a lot of stress with all of my theatre stuff that I do, and although I love it and enjoy it so much, it can really put a lot of pressure on me and cause me a lot of stress, which I feel happens to most of us quite a lot with lots of different things. I had my Bronze Level acting exam, 2 plays, one of which I'd only been given a part in 2 weeks before opening night, and my GCSE drama performance, all in the same week. It's safe to say they were all stressing me out. All I could think about constantly was balancing all of these things and getting them done well. It felt like I had absolutely no time to do anything else. I couldn't focus in school or have time to rest at home. My life became all about stressing over these 4 big things in my life that were all important to me and I wanted to do well in. Normally, I would cope with stressful situations by taking one thing at a time and focusing on the first problem first and dealing with things as I came to them. But in this situation, it felt like everything was being thrown in my face all at once. I didn't have time to deal with them all individually. So it came to the morning of my bronze acting exam, which was the biggest thing for me and was stressing me out the most. I felt extremely unprepared for it and I was really nervous and I had no idea what to wear, and I started to feel sick and panic as the stress really got to me and it was hitting me that today was the day. I knew that if I didn't do well in it, my self-esteem and confidence would drop massively and I would kick myself for it, which is stupid, I know, as it's only a grade, but in that moment when the stress was really getting to me, it felt like my whole career, future and dreams was hanging on this grade, which it most definitely wasn't. I had no idea what to do and everything was getting to me, so I just broke down crying about 15 minutes before I had to leave, ruining my makeup, and I still wasn't dressed and I didn't even know what to wear. In that moment, God really blessed me because all I wanted was my mum to help me. She was at work and wasn't meant to come home until after my exam. However, that day she got off work early and came home exactly when I needed her most. She helped calm me down and find something to wear and fix my makeup and prepare me for my exam, whilst reassuring me that my future was not dependent on this one grade all in the space of 10 minutes. She came with me to my exam and it ended up going amazing, the best I could have done it, and all the other theatre things that were stressing me out for that week went amazingly, and it ended up being one of the best weeks, so all that stress wasn't needed. I will always be extremely grateful to my mum for many things, but that morning is definitely one of them, as I don't know what I would have done without her. My exam definitely wouldn't have gone as well. I was extremely blessed by God through my mum for helping me through that stressful morning. So, sometimes the solution to our stress comes in the form of another person, but we don't often think about other people when it comes to our stress. That could be because we feel alone. Stress can be so isolating. I know that firsthand, and I'm sure most people you speak to can also agree. And whether you know it or not, we've grown up in a society where we've been taught for most of our lives to just figure it out ourselves. We get this feeling that we just need to work and try harder, that we need to do it on our own. Even though that doesn't work, we insist that we keep doing it by ourselves. I, for one, am definitely guilty of this. Or, when dealing with stressful situations, we pretend like we're doing better than we actually are. We tell ourselves and other people that we're fine, even though we're not. I also am definitely guilty of this as well. Imagine this. Imagine if we all walked around every day holding an object, say an apple for example, but we don't want anyone to see this apple, so we decide to hide it behind our back and walk around like that, carrying this apple behind our backs constantly so people don't see it. We try to hide it. That would definitely be exhausting after a while. That's just an example, but that's what we try to do with our stress sometimes, isn't it? Can God help us in situations like that? I know sometimes we can doubt He could help with our stress. Does He even care? What could He even do to help? Solomon, a wise ancient king, answers these questions in the book of Proverbs, which is probably one of my favourite books and one of the first ones I read. He says, "Fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trusting the Lord means safety." Being overwhelmed by stress and worry is an awful feeling, but it's also not a bad thing. It just means that you're human. Every person around you struggles with it sometimes too, and that means that all these people can help. And that means that all these people can play a part in helping you deal with all that stress in your life. The second part of the Bible, the New Testament, consists of the books that account for the time Jesus walked the earth and beyond. However, whether it's an Old Testament or a New Testament book, they all ultimately point to Jesus. One of Jesus' closest followers was a man called John, who wrote one of the Gospels, which are books at the beginning of the New Testament that are accounts of Jesus' life. John records a time when Jesus had been beaten, tried, found guilty and put on the cross to be crucified. Jesus knew he was going to die, but at that moment he was just worrying about his mum. He was thinking, what should she do when he was gone? Who would take care of her? In John chapter 19, verses 25 to 27, it says, standing near the cross were Jesus' mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother standing there, beside the disciple he loved, he said to her, dear woman, here is your son. And he said to this disciple, here is your mother. And from then on, this disciple took her into his home. We see two things from this encounter. One, Jesus leaning on another person. When everything was extremely overwhelming for Jesus, he turned to one of his closest friends. Jesus was stressed about what would happen to his mum after he died, so he asked his friend John for help. In that moment, God used John to help take care of Jesus' family and to relieve Jesus' stress. 2. God using Jesus to save us from our biggest problem. When sin entered the world, we turned away from God's perfect love, which broke our relationship with him. That's when God sent Jesus, who was the ultimate sacrifice. Jesus healed what was broken and showed us just how good and loving God is. Christianity isn't all about what we can do or what we've done. It's about who Jesus is, what he's done and what he's made right. God sent Jesus to rescue us from ourselves. God uses other people to help us when we're stressed. The hugs, texts, smiles, words of encouragement, words of counsel, support, strength and prayer. They're all ways that God uses other people to help us when we feel overwhelmed. Now, some of you may be thinking, what about if other people are the reason I'm stressed? Maybe it's friend drama or a breakup or your parents or teachers. People do tend to stress me out quite a lot sometimes too, and it's hard to remember to always have grace with them. But I think one of the biggest things to try and remember is God loves them, and so we should try and have patience with them, even when they're stressing us out. Maybe you're stressed because you're worried about what other people think of you. How can people be the answer to stress when they're often the cause? I want you to look at this verse again in the book of Proverbs and remember it in these situations. Fearing people is a dangerous trap, but trust in the Lord means safety. God knows everything about us and he still loves us passionately. We are loved. We are children of God. When we trust in that and our identity is secure in that fact, we no longer fear other people and what they think about us. I know how incredibly hard that is to do. Some people will hurt us, but we know that safety is found in God's open, loving arms. When we trust God, we understand that he can use other people to come alongside us when we're stressed. It's one of his favourite ways to demonstrate his love for us in our everyday lives. So not only do we trust him, we also begin to slowly open up and trust other people. Like trusting God, trusting others is a way we can grow in our faith. Just remember this, God has a plan. You will always be okay because God is in control and is with you through everything. Now, going forward, there's two things I'd love for us to do. 1. Turn to others for help. God can use our friends, family, teachers, youth leaders, our friends' parents, and all kinds of other people. I bet you there are people in your lives who want to help you. Think of them now. Maybe write them down if you need, perhaps in your notes app. Who are the people in your life who would show up for you to help when you're stressed or worried? It is so powerful when people step in and help others carry their stress. We can see this in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul said this in a letter to one of the early churches in Galatians. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. One of the ways we can trust God is by trusting other people and helping each other when we feel the weight of stress. 2. Look for ways to help others. Wouldn't our lives all feel less stressful if we all followed Jesus by helping each other? What if we woke up every day and looked for ways to say, yes, Jesus, I will help, just like John was willing to take care of Jesus' mother. Let's be willing to help take care of other people. Let's do what the Apostle Paul instructed and carry each other's burdens. Maybe that could mean helping your parent or guardians clean up, helping one of your friends with something they're struggling with in school, standing by one of your friends who is going through something tough right now, or praying with or for someone who is hurting. What would it look like for you to be there for people who are stressed in this week? Maybe God is using you in someone else's life who is stressed. God uses other people to help us when we're stressed. As you head off today, maybe think about this question. What is one step I can take to trust God with what I'm worried about?